Have you ever stopped to wonder how wars actually begin? It's a big question, right? It's not like one morning millions of people in one country suddenly decide they dislike millions of people in another. That's not how it works. Often, the story starts at the very top, with a handful of leaders. These leaders might talk about big ideas like honor, freedom, or national security, but sometimes, the real reasons are much smaller and more personal. They might want more power, more land, or more money. They play a dangerous game, moving countries around like pieces on a chessboard, forgetting that real people live in those squares. It's a high-stakes game where they don't have to pay the price. Think about it like this. Imagine two kids arguing over a toy. Instead of talking it out, one of them gets all their friends to fight the other kid's friends. The two kids who started it all stand back and watch while everyone else gets hurt. That's often what happens with wars. Leaders create a story, a narrative of us versus them, to convince everyone that fighting is the only option. They use powerful words and images to make people feel scared or angry. They tell you that the other side is not like you, that they are a threat. They build a monster in your mind, so you feel justified in fighting it. These leaders are very good at selling the idea of war. They hold parades, give powerful speeches, and wave flags to stir up feelings of patriotism. They make it seem like going to war is the bravest, most honorable thing a person can do. They promise a quick victory and a better future once the enemy is defeated. But they conveniently leave out the messy parts. They don't talk about the families that will be torn apart, the homes that will be destroyed, or the lives that will be lost forever. They present a clean, heroic version of conflict, when the reality is anything but. They are selling a product, and that product is war. The truth is, most ordinary people around the world just want to live their lives in peace. They want to raise their families, go to work, hang out with friends, and maybe complain about the Wi-Fi speed. They don't wake up wanting to invade their neighbors. The desire for conflict is often planted and watered by those in power. It's a manufactured conflict, created to serve the interests of a select few. The people are not the problem. They are the pawns in a game they never asked to play. Understanding this is the first step toward changing the game entirely. So, who actually pays the price when this game of war begins? It's not the leaders who declare it. The true cost is paid by the ordinary people and the soldiers sent to the front lines. It's paid in currency that can never be recovered: lives, limbs, and peace of mind. For soldiers, the battlefield is a place of unimaginable horror. It's a world of constant fear, noise, and loss. They are asked to do things that go against every human instinct, to see things no one should ever have to see. They fight bravely for their country and for each other, believing they are protecting their loved ones back home. The suffering doesn't stop with the soldiers. For every soldier on the battlefield, there are countless civilians caught in the crossfire. Imagine your home, your school, your favorite park suddenly becoming a war zone. One day you are going about your life, and the next you are running for shelter, not knowing if you will have a home to return to. Families are separated, children become orphans, and entire communities are shattered. The infrastructure of life, hospitals, schools, roads, and power grids, crumbles into dust. The simple things we take for granted, like clean water and a safe place to sleep, become impossible luxuries. And what about the wounds that you can't see? The psychological toll of war is devastating and lasts for generations. Soldiers return home with invisible scars, struggling with trauma that haunts their days and nights. They may have survived the war, but the war has not left them. Civilians, especially children, who have lived through the terror of conflict, carry that fear with them for the rest of their lives. The constant stress and uncertainty leave a deep mark on the human soul. This collective trauma poisons a society long after the last bomb has fallen, making it harder to rebuild and trust again. The price of war is also paid in lost potential. Think of all the doctors, artists, teachers, and innovators who never get to share their gifts with the world because their lives are cut short by conflict. Think of the resources, trillions of dollars, spent on weapons and destruction that could have been used to cure diseases, end poverty, or explore the stars. War doesn't just destroy what is, it destroys what could have been. It is a black hole that sucks in humanity's resources, creativity, and hope, leaving behind a void of pain and regret. That is the true, incalculable cost. Now, let's talk about where the leaders are while all this is happening. While soldiers are sleeping in muddy trenches and families are hiding in basements, the leaders who started the war are often safe and sound. They are tucked away in secure bunkers and fortified palaces, hundreds or even thousands of miles away from the fighting. They command the war from a distance, looking at maps and screens. For them, it's a strategic exercise, a game of numbers and territories. They don't hear the screams or smell the smoke. They are insulated from the brutal reality they have created. Their children continue to go to the best schools, their families are protected, and their lives go on with minimal disruption. They will never have to knock on a door to tell a parent that their child is not coming home. They will never have to identify a loved one from a photograph. They are protected from the consequences of their own decisions. This disconnect is one of the greatest tragedies of war. The people with the power to start wars are the same people who are least likely to suffer from them. This safety allows them to make reckless decisions with other people's lives. From their safe havens, they deliver televised speeches, talking about sacrifice and courage. They praise the bravery of the soldiers on the front lines and the resilience of the people back home. It's easy to talk about sacrifice when you are not the one making it. It's easy to call for courage when you are not the one facing the danger. These words, coming from a place of complete safety, can ring hollow to those who are actually living the nightmare. The leaders risk nothing, yet they ask everyone else to risk everything. It is the ultimate hypocrisy. This is why it is so important for us to be critical of their calls to war. When a leader beats the drums of war, we must ask, will your son or daughter be on the front line? Will your family be moved to a refugee camp? Will you give up your comfortable home and live in a bombed-out city? If the answer is no, then we must question their motives. When the architects of war are shielded from its horrors, they have no incentive to seek peace. They can continue the game because they have nothing to lose, while the rest of us lose everything. So what can we do? It can feel hopeless, like we are just small pieces in their big game, but we are not. The most powerful weapon we have is the word no. What if the soldiers, the ones asked to do the fighting and dying, simply said no? What if they recognized that the person on the other side of the battlefield is just like them, a young person with a family, dreams, and a life they don't want to lose, who was also told a story by their leaders? A moment of shared humanity could stop a war in its tracks. It's a brave and difficult choice, but it's a choice that holds the power to save the world. And it's not just up to the soldiers. Every single one of us has a role to play. We can say no to the stories that divide us. We can refuse to hate people we have never met. We can question the narratives our leaders and our media feed us. We must become critical thinkers who look for the truth beyond the headlines. We can choose to connect with people from other cultures, to learn their stories, and to see the humanity in them. Peace begins with understanding, and understanding begins with the simple act of listening to one another. War is loud, but the quiet voice of reason can be more powerful. We need to understand that war is a failure of imagination. It is the admission that we are not creative enough to solve our problems without violence. It never truly solves anything. It might end a battle, but it sows the seeds for future conflicts. The bitterness, the loss, and the desire for revenge can linger for generations, creating a cycle of violence that is hard to break. The only real victory is peace, achieved through dialogue, empathy, and compromise. We must demand that our leaders invest in diplomacy and cooperation, not in bombs and bullets. Ultimately, our path forward must be one of unity. We are one human family, living on one small planet. Our differences are not as important as our shared desire for a peaceful and prosperous life for our children. Let us put our faith not in flags or armies, but in the fundamental goodness that exists within all people. Let us build bridges, not walls. Let us teach our children the value of empathy and understanding, not hatred and suspicion. The choice is ours. We can continue to let the monsters of power lead us into darkness, or we can unmask them and choose the light of peace.